Welcome everybody to your Cuisines of the World class. I'm so excited to have you all here. My name is Chef Sophia Ford and I am very excited that I get to be your chef instructor for the next 6 weeks. A little bit about me, I started, like many of you, I had zero experience in the culinary industry when I went to culinary school. I was actually a med school dropout. So change of career completely. And then I met my husband in culinary school, so we're two chefs that marry each other, and I love it. I started prep cook all the way to executive chef, and I've been teaching for the past 5 years and a half now. And this has to be one of my favorite classes because I love everything that has to do with different cultures. I'm a little bit of a mix of absolutely everything. I have 100% Spanish mother, a half Greek father, and half Mexican. I was born in Texas, raised in Mexico, lived everywhere. I lived in Barcelona, I lived in Mexico, I lived in various cities in Mexico, various cities here in the United States. And I just love absorbing and learning everything that I can through food. And I've traveled. I've been very, very lucky to travel a lot of places in the world. And I believe that getting to eat somebody else's culture, food, is just the way to get to know them. Everybody is very proud of their culture and their food, and they always want to show it off. So if you're interested in eating, then it starts the talk, right? That conversation about, oh, I love this came from over here and over there. And then comes the fusion cuisines, which I believe I have a little bit of that. I live in the beautiful Mississippi Gulf Coast now because my husband is a Southern gentleman. So I definitely have a mixture now of Cajun and a little bit of Creole because I worked in New Orleans, and then I have the Mississippi Southern country with my Mexican, and we came up with our own cuisine, call it Mexicippi. So like I said, a little bit of everything. I love different cultures, and I believe that we all have more in common than what makes us different, and this class is going to be all about that. We're going to explore different areas. We're going to explore different discussions of what makes us different. And you are going to realize how much we have in common through food, of course. I get to share the spotlight with two awesome chefs this time around. And Chef Jamie, please introduce yourself.
Well, I just saw you guys last Wednesday, so I don't think I need much of an introduction, but I do want to give you a little bit of why I love Cuisines of the World so much. Much like Chef Sophia, I'm also kind of a mixing, melting pot of a person. The main part of my heritage is Mexican, but my mom is Spanish. I grew up in the United States, so I feel like I have such a blend of cultures. But unlike Chef Sophia, I haven't had the opportunity to travel the world. I recently had my first world traveling experience like 5 months ago, but I was able to fall in love and understand world cuisines through research. I feel like I have packed my bags and cooked the entire world in my kitchen, and that's something that you're going to be able to do here as well. So not having experience in world cuisine or having experience in world cuisine, we all have the opportunity to learn and experience because we all know how to cook. There are very few techniques around the world that you have not been exposed to yet in this program. We're going to talk about a couple of them in class, but really braising, deep frying, poaching, roasting, these are things that are done worldwide, and you're going to be able to utilize so much research and understanding of different styles and different seasonings to incorporate to what you already know to learn about world cuisine. And it's super exciting, super interesting. Like Chef Sophia said, I personally think that food is the universal language. People say that math is the universal language. I don't think that that's true. I really think that it's food. My entire boyfriend's family speaks only Spanish, but when I walk into their house and his grandma hands me a plate of food, I know exactly what she's saying without having to speak the same language. So that's something that we're going to explore in this class. It's going to be super fun and super interesting. Chef Karine, you want to reintroduce yourself?
Hello, everybody. Well, I travel too, but I'm originally from Barbados, so every now and then my idiot accent come in, right? And then I grew up in Brooklyn, so that pops in and out too. And in New York, I mean, talk about a melting pot. But I did a lot of traveling too. Some of you already know me. I was actually a fashion designer. So I'm surrounded with art, right? Chef Sophia just wrote music and food, right? All of that falls under art. So you all get to now become your own artist, and your plates are your canvas. And the great thing about this class, when I was in culinary school, Cuisines of the World, this was my favorite class because I got to explore and do different things. Using spices and whatever it is, it's you take it and manipulate these ingredients and take it to a whole nother level. Everybody's hand is different. Everybody's approach is going to be different, but it's that technique that you have to learn and master. And no matter where you go, it's the same technique, right? So since I've worked with some of you all, I now have I was approached to do a chef coat line, right? So now I'm launching that in August. The reason why I brought it up is because, like I told many of you all, this is a huge industry, right? You cook, but a lot of it is also business. So get out there, network, network, network. You can't do enough of that. Have a mentor, learn from them, add that on to your repertoire with your skills, and then take it to the next level. All right? So throwing it back to you, Chef Sophia.
Awesome. Well, I'm very excited to work with you two ladies. And like Chef Corinne said, guys, it is also business side that we're doing this, right? We started culinary school because we have a passion for cooking, and it's almost like an addiction, right? You feed someone and their reaction to your food is what fuels you, right? That, oh, you get so excited. But at the end of the day, we also want to make money. And having a business in a restaurant, one tool that is going to be extremely important, especially in this beautiful country of ours, the United States, having such different cultures all over, your research is going to help you a lot. And this is mainly what this class is about. We are going to give you the tools to do the proper research in order to do a proper cultural food, a traditional food. So because let's say we have a very good, and Chef Jamie is going to talk about that in a second, Chef Graham always tells us the story of why doing the proper research is important. Because it doesn't matter that you don't plan to travel outside the United States. You just want to work in the United States. You just want to work in an American restaurant. But you never know when you're going to have to do research in order to do a dish. And Chef Jamie, you want to tell the story from Chef Graham?
Sure. Chef Graham one time told me a story that he was working in a restaurant. It was an American restaurant, but he was the executive chef, and his concierge came in to talk to him and said, hey, we have this major big-time Japanese ambassador coming in. They're coming with a whole crew of Japanese people, and they're expecting a Japanese meal. What can we do? And Chef Graham at the time didn't know anything about Japanese food. He just knew basic things, didn't really know what the flavors and ingredients were, but had to say yes. You know, what other choice did he have? These high-profile people were coming in, and he needed to make a choice right then. So he went to the back, to the dry storage, got on the computer that they order the food from, and started to research what makes Japanese culture. And because he understood research, he was able to pull together a Japanese meal using ingredients that they had in-house, because he understood not Japanese culture, but he understood the importance of the research, and he understood what to look for. So if you want to cook something that you have in-house, noticing the etiquette as well, Nadine, that's a good point. Realizing what they're expecting from their meal and what ingredients he could supply in-house and what flavor profiles he could create, he was able to have a satisfied customer and bring people back into the restaurant. So it all ties together with business, with food, and with proper research.
Absolutely. And like Natalie said, part of your flavor passport is going to do that research on etiquette, because the way we eat food, that it's diverse between cultures. And this is really important because if we go for what we know, since we have such a multiple pot of people in the United States, and we do the first thing that pops to mind, would just do chicken teriyaki, right? You can't get more Japanese than that, but teriyaki was invented in Seattle by Japanese immigrants, but it was invented in the United States. So somebody from Japan might not be familiar with teriyaki, right? And then, so our knowledge of certain cultures is a little bit different from what is traditional over there, because we do have a large influx of immigrants that have changed that food a little bit to accommodate the new produce that we have here, the people, the palates, etc. So what we think of Mexican food, the first thing that we think, oh my God, it's so spicy. But I can tell you there's an array of dishes in Mexico that have 0 chilies in it, right? Or if what we think of Italian food is normally more Italian-American than the traditional Italian food that they eat over there. So this is what this class is about, for you to be able to make that difference. What is a fusion cuisine? What is Italian-American, Mexican-American, the Tex-Mex, and what is traditional? Mm-hmm. And a lot of people like to use the word authentic, but to me, and we're going to talk about this in this live session and the next, to me, authenticity, it's a very strong word to say something is not authentic. Because if we think about it, teriyaki is authentic to what it is, but it's just not traditionally Japanese. Mm-hmm. Right? And we always have this conversation, and we're going to have it after we talk about the flavor passport. Is Taco Bell authentic? A lot of people say, no. Well, to me, it is not Mexican authentic, but it is authentic in itself. Nobody does what Taco Bell does. Nobody has a taco, Dorito, Loco, Taco, Chimichanga, whatever they are, right? They are authentic to themselves, and they don't market themselves as Mexican food. They market themselves as Taco Bell, right? So they're authentic in itself. It is just not traditional Mexican. Mm-hmm. And that's where we need to draw the line and separate authenticity from traditional. So for this class, we're going to be looking for you guys to do the research on the region that you want to do in order to find the traditional dishes that they've been doing, that it's part of their culture. And the flavor passport is that. It is your entire research that you're going to do. Believe me, after this live session, you're going to feel a little bit overwhelmed because it's a lot to, eat up and understand that you have to do a lot of things in week 1. But, and Chef Jamie can back me up in this, and Chef Karine will back me up in this after week 1. Once you guys do the research of the flavor passport, you relax, because it seems like a lot of information, but if you do it right, it's easy. It's just a matter of learning where to find this information. And the second thing that is going to make it easy for you guys to do all this research, guys, is the choosing of that region. If I say, I'm going to choose the United States for my region for week 1. Where do I start with what is a traditional dish in the United States? It's like, oh my God, you have the Pacific, you have South, you have country, you have Northeastern, you have the Tex-Mex, you have Tex-Cali, you have traditional American, so you have to choose a specific region in the United States for your research to be easier, right? So let's say I will focus just on Cajun cuisine. I will focus just on Creole cuisine. I will focus just on Floridian cuisine. So the more focused your region, the easier your research is going to be. Do not choose the entire country of Mexico. Choose a region in Mexico. Either you choose South Mexico, you choose the Baja California Peninsula, you choose part of North Mexico. You can even go by states in Mexican cuisine. Most of the Caribbean and Central America, you can actually choose the entire country, because we know the Caribbean islands are very small, so there's not a lot of regions in it. But if you find a region inside of that island, then definitely go for that, because that's going to make it easier. I had a student ask me if he could do the Rasta influence in Trinidad and Tobago, and I'm like, go for it. That's a specific region that he can find the research easier than just doing a vast region. For week 1, You are choosing a region in the Americas, okay? That means Alaska, Canada, all the way down to Argentina and Chile. The Caribbean is part of the Americas. That will be for week 1 and 2. Because in week 1, you do the research with your narrative, production sheet, and drawing, and you're going to choose either a breakfast item or a street food item from your region, and that's what you're going to cook. So we have a heavy research part and a light cooking part. On week 2, you're going to do a dinner with appropriate sides from the same region and just your narrative, production sheet, and drawing. So you have heavy cooking with very light paperwork to say, okay? Now I know everybody's freaking out, what's a flavor passport? So that's what we're going to talk about right now, but I know that Cruz has a question. Go for it, Cruz.
Okay, so I was looking at it, and I'm gonna do Lima, Peru, and I was getting so confused with the week 1 odd and week 2, like it was saying like.
You have different narrative for each week.
Okay.
Because the narrative that you guys have been doing up to now, you're not gonna do that anymore. No more master sheet. Now
Okay.
You're going to do those questions. In week 1, you do the questions on top, and in week 2, you do the questions on the bottom. Let's take a look at the flavor passport, Cruz, and then we're going to talk about the narrative. And if you still have a question after that, definitely shoot.
Okay.
All right? Okay. No problem. So here we go. Everybody can see the class page? All right. So that is just a little welcome video that kind of like summarizes the entire class. And here right there, that's why I put those arrows looking at there, we have the flavor passport example. So if you click on this one, is Chef Janet's Rorschach's flavor passport example. And this is what I want you guys to do. If you have a question on how to create slides, guys, you just have to go to your drive. You click on new right here. My internet cooperates. New. Come on. New. And here right there, Google Sheets. You just click on that. And that's how you create your Google, no, not Sheets, damn it. Google Slides, my bad. New, Google Slides, there we go. All right? So here's where I will start, flavor passports for Chef Sophia. So again, Google Drive, new, Google Slides. That's how you create your slideshow. Because Chef Jamie and Chef Corrine want your information in a slideshow. It's easier for them to grade, and it's easier for them to read all your research. So I'm gonna skip that one. And this is what your flavor passport is. It consists of 9 slides. You can add more slides if you want, but it has to be at least these 9. General information of your region. She did this one on the Basque Country. It's a part of Spain. So this one will be kind of like for week 3. Little bit of general information of the area. The geography, the climate, very summarized version. If you're doing, for example, Lima, Peru, but you say it's in South America, it has mountainous regions, and you talk about the climate in there, okay? And then this one is very important, guys. This is the food influence from other cultures. What influenced their food? People have moved so much around the world that every single culture has an influence on somewhere else. For example, here in the South, guys, what do you think is the #1 influence in Southern cuisine?
French.
French, if you're close to New Orleans, absolutely. To me, Africans. You can't take that soul food away from the South. All that influence that happened through the African slave trade, and a lot of African Americans are here in the South, and you can see that food culture everywhere, right? Let's think about Tex-Mex. But it has to be that culture of the Texan cowboy and the Mexican. If you think about Florida, well, it has to be the Caribbean and difference. And you can go from Cuba. If you go to New York, whoo, everyone, right? If you go to Italy, even in those cuisines, they've been conquered by other people. They brought a lot of ingredients from the old world from the new world to the old world. Because if you think about it, where does the tomato come from? From Italy? From Mexico. So what would be about tomato sauce, right? The pasta came from China. English, the tea came from China. The coffee, guys, coffee came from Africa, right? So you have to think about that. What cultures influence the food? If you talk about Mexican food, it doesn't matter where in the country, which region you are, there's Spanish influence because we were conquered by the Spanish, right? So think about that. What cultures influence the region that you chose? And specifically in food, I don't want any copy paste of just, oh, they were conquered. I don't want Wikipedia copy paste. And throughout your research, you're going to find, guys, that you're going to use Wikipedia less and less and less. Because yeah, it is an awesome page with just, you know, grabbing random facts. But let me tell you a funny story before we continue. Our dear chef Jamie killed John Stamos for 2 days in Wikipedia and nobody noticed. She killed beautiful John Stamos for 2 days. Like she actually put the day that he died and he's still alive. So it just goes to show you guys, you can add anything to Wikipedia without fact checking. And by the time they actually fact check, it can be a little bit too late, all right? So Chef Jamie, after this live session, she's going to send you a message that is going to include a lot of web pages that her and we're going to add web pages that Chef Corinne likes, that we trust, that we know that they do fact checking, okay? So here we go. Your number 1 slide is the general information about your region. Number 2 slide is your food influences in the culture. Number 3, those flavoring ingredients that are famous of that region, okay? Now there's where you say, well, in Mexico, is the chilies, is the chocolate, is the aguacate, is that? In Cajun, is the cayenne, is it crawfish? So all the flavors and ingredients are very famous of that specific region, okay? If it's Italy, it's the tomato, it's the pasta, it's the basil, it's the olive oil, the balsamic vinegar, the cheeses, etc. What is very famous from those regions, or what herbs and spices and vegetables they use a lot? If you think of Irish cuisine, potato has to pop up, right? So those are the things that we're looking in this slide, the flavoring ingredients of that region. So slide 1, general information. Slide 2, food culture influence. Slide 3, famous flavors and ingredients. Your slide 4 is going to be the famous dishes, right? If we go back to Cajun, well, jambalaya, crawfish etouffee, etc. If we go to Mexico, a certain region, well, certain types of tacos or soups. If we go to Italy again, parmigiana, alla fiorentina, etc. So the famous dishes of that region. Slide number 5. Eating etiquette. Here we go. See, I don't know what I think it was Nadine that said something about food etiquette on the chat. This is the way they eat. And I know in week 1 and 2 it might be a little bit redundant because most of the Americas, most of the Western world, we kind of eat the same. But food etiquette, for example, is everything that your mom always told you not to do at the table. Don't chew with your mouth open. Don't wear your hat at the table. Don't put your elbows on the table. Don't play with your food. For example, here in the United States, it's a good thing if you make a happy plate. How many times did your mom say, You get dessert because you made a happy plate. You cleaned out your plate, there's nothing left. There's a lot of cultures that it's actually frowned upon to eat everything that you have on your plate, because you're sending a message to your host that they didn't make enough food for everyone. So that's the little nick and things that we're going to find in different cultures, that their food etiquette is different than ours. We eat with forks and spoons. A lot of cultures eat with their hands, or it depends on what meal they're eating, that they eat with hands or fork and spoon. Of course, a lot of other countries don't use a fork and spoon. They use chopsticks, or they use their naan bread or something to eat the food. Some countries you're not supposed to eat with your left hand, only your right hand. So that's what we're looking for food etiquette, the way that they eat. Okay? All right. I know it's a lot of information, but it's easy, okay? Don't get overwhelmed. So week one, slide 1, general information. Slide 2, food influence in the culture. Slide 3, famous ingredients and flavors. Slide 4, typical dishes. And slide 5, the way that they eat. Let's go to slide 6, food festivals. Every single region has a festival that, for example, we're very close here at the Mississippi Gulf Coast to the Blueberry Festival, because blueberries grow like crazy here at the Gulf Coast. So there's always some type of food festival around in each region. If you can't find one of your particular region, then just broaden it up a little bit and see a region near it. But it's almost never that we find a region that doesn't have a festival to celebrate something of its food. Famous chefs from that region. So if we're talking about, again, Cajun, Paul Prudhomme, Chef Jambesh, Shaya, right? So from your region, you choose one. And then this one is very important too, guys. This is your menus. It doesn't mean to find menus from the region. This is what you are going to cook for week 1 and week 2. So for week 1, you're going to have your breakfast or your street food menu. And from week 2, you're going to have your dinner menu. So by week 1, after your research, you should already know what you're going to cook for week 2. And please, Chef Jamie, let them know why this is very important for you to see.
Sure. I want to know, first of all, I want to know what you're cooking that week. So when I take a look at your food, I can compare it to what it is that is expected of that specific dish that you're making. But I also really want to know, and Chef Karine as well, what you're making next week to give you some feedback on it. There's a lot of information on the internet about cuisines. One of the ones I think of specifically is Hawaii. There's so many blogs and articles out there that are like Hawaiian French toast, and really all it is pineapple and coconut, which is not necessarily something that's reflecting a traditional breakfast in Hawaii. So I'm going to give you some feedback. Maybe you need to clean up your research a little bit. Maybe you need to get a little bit more traditional. Or maybe it's a bit too much. You know, you only have 7 days. You have 7 things listed. That might be too much or too little. I may even make notes, like in the example, flavor example that we were looking at, almost everything on that dinner menu was white. So I might say, when you go to the grocery store, maybe pick up some parsley or some herbs that you could garnish with, because when you present that final plate, every single thing on that plate is going to be white, and you're not going to have a lot of color there. So I want to look ahead at what you're going to be making for dinner to check if it's traditional, to be sure that you have a balance of flavors, and to just give you a little bit of guidance for that full-on dinner that you're going to be creating in week 2. I do want to make it very clear for menus. We're not talking about menus from your region. Like, I don't want to see an example of a restaurant menu. I want your menu, what you're cooking this week and what you're cooking next week.
Having that said, if by any chance you make up your mind and you find something else that you want to cook, you can absolutely change your menu. Just let Chef Jamie or Chef Karine know. All right, guys? And last but not least, your research citation page, because We don't want you to plagiarize somebody else's work. Any information that you found for your research, you need to put it here. If it's web pages, books, articles, etc., just put it there. It doesn't have to be in any method necessary. Just make sure that you have your web pages where you find your information at, and we want at least 3 citations. Okay, 3 different web pages where you found your information. So let's recap it. Slide number 1, the general information of your region, very summarized. Slide number 2, that food influence in your culture. What culture influenced your food? Okay. Slide number 3, famous flavors and ingredients. Slide number 4, typical dishes. Slide number 5, food etiquette, the way people eat. Slide number 6, food festivals. Slide number 7, famous chefs. Slide number 8, your menu for week 1 and week 2. And slide number 9, like I said, 9 slides, research citations.
Chef, I want to address some questions that we have in the chat.
Sure.
So someone pointed out that there are 4 menu items on the menu slide that we showed in our example. 4 menu items isn't like the standard or anything. Really, every single person is going to have a completely different menu because you are all going to be studying completely different regions. Even if 2 of you are in the Southwest, one of you might be making enchiladas for dinner and the other one might be making fajitas. So you're going to have different meals, and that accommodates for different sides. So it really does depend on your region. What the assignment is for in week 2, not this week, but when week 2 rolls around, the assignment is dinner with appropriate sides. And it is vague like that for a reason, because every culture is going to have a different definition of what dinner and appropriate sides is. So if you're unsure, you can check, but generally if you have a protein, a starch, and a veg somewhere on the plate, you're good to go. But you can go above and beyond. You can do a dessert, you could do a drink. There are so many ways that you could go with this to accommodate for the appropriate sides. It doesn't have to be like a static 4-item thing. When it comes to breakfast or street food, and street food is a little bit easier to prepare than dinner, and we did that by design. Your research is very heavy this week, so we don't want you to worry too much about an overly complex recipe to cook. So we assigned breakfast or street food since it's a little bit easier depending on the regions that you're in. So you'll have easy cooking, hard research, hard cooking, no research, and it's going to alternate like that all throughout the class.
And like she mentioned, guys, for example, let's take her idea. If you do fajitas for Tex-Mex, well, fajitas normally is either the protein that you choose, chicken, beef, or shrimp, with peppers and onions. And normally the sides that you see on Tex-Mex is rice and beans. But if you go for jambalaya, it's everything in a one-pot type of thing. You already have the rice, you already have the sausage, you already have the vegetables in that one pot, so you don't need sides for that. It is however the region you chose does that food.
I'm coming, Wanda. Chef, I'm sorry. Chef, so I'm sorry. I gotta leave. I got an emergency in my family.
No problem. Go for it. Hope everything's okay.
I did want to address one more question that we had in the chat, and it was about the number of slides. So Chef Sophia referenced 9 slides. You'll notice in the example, I think there's maybe 12 or 13 slides. Some of that is design. Chef Janet, who created that flavor passport, put some slides of pictures, and she put some slides of some extra information. And feel free to design it however you choose. I've worked with you guys before. I know you're so creative because I saw all your plates last blog. So get creative with your flavor passport as you see fit. But we do need to have each one of those slides that has a title. That's information that we need to have there. Everything else, that's just your personal style, your personal flair to it. If you want to add more information, you may. You may not add less information.
And you find that it's more slides because she also added her narrative and production sheet to this slideshow, which we're going to talk about just about now. Let's see. First is questions. Timothy, go for it.
Yes, Chef. My major question and concern is I live in the South, so it's going to be really easy if I was to pick a Southern region and do a Southern staple. But that's not why I'm in school. That's not why I'm in class. I want to pick something maybe in South America or in, like you said, in Mexico or Canada. My problem is the location I'm at. We don't have a lot of cultural herbs and spices and meats. Like the closest ethnicity store we have is a Mexican store, and it's probably 40 miles from here.
I understand. This is how we can work with that. If you can't find ingredients that you find on your research, definitely text or call us or email us, Chef Jamie, Chef Corinne, and myself, because we can work with you to find the best substitution for that. Okay? And that's how teriyaki was born, because they couldn't find a lot of ingredients that they normally have in Japan, and they come up with something else, but it will make it as close as possible to that dish that you're looking for. But definitely substitutions. And it's not just going to be for this week, especially when we get to week 5 and 6 where we do Asia. It's going to be really hard to find some ingredients so we can find the best substitutions. Okay, Timothy?
Yes, because that's one of my biggest problems. Is I love Chinese culture and the food and the art, and so that's going to be one of my regions. But yeah, you can find beef and broccoli. You make it home. That's about it.
Yeah, you'll see. You'll see that we're going to find a lot of substitutions to you to get as close as the dish that you want to do. Chef Jamie?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think it's also really important to note that it's really a good skill to understand substitutions. That's going to be something that you have to do in the industry all the time. For those of you who already work in the industry, your tomato guy is not going to come through once in a while, and you're going to need to get some acid or some sweetness in that dish somehow. So being well-versed in substitutions and how to do that, I think, is an important kind of accidental bonus that comes out of this class, because we are traveling the world virtually, and unfortunately there's just not a whole wide world of ingredients available to us all of the time. So you have 3 incredible resources here to help you if you get stuck on substitutions. But I also wanted to address something that you said, which is not wanting to stick in your comfort zone. I think there are 2 main ways to take this class. One of them is looking within yourself and seeing which cultures have meant a lot to you and deepening your knowledge of them. And I think that's fantastic. When I was young, my mom would make this dish called picadillo, and I just thought it was my mom throwing a bunch of stuff in a pan. I didn't even know it was something that was culturally relevant to her until I started researching South America. So there's a lot you can learn even if you're staying within your comfort zone. I personally would take this class the same way that you're going to. I would throw a dart at a map and just choose that region to learn something brand new. But there's absolutely no wrong way to study the world unless you're doing it in a disrespectful way. So just keep that in mind.
Absolutely. Ruben, you have a question? We can't hear you, Ruben. I don't know why. You are unmuted. Maybe check the microphone on your computer again. All right. If not, type it on the chat, and he can help, and we can answer the question there. Heather, go for it.
Hi, I was just wondering, are we going to be able to see other people's works?
On week five, the discussion forum for week 5 is going to be you sharing all your research, and you get to see other people's work.
Awesome. Thank you.
No problem.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, there you go, Ruben.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, my biggest question is, throughout the whole program, the course, we was, we got used to doing with a narrative, production sheet, a picture and everything. Now, what I'm understanding from this course is totally different. Now we've got to create slides. Can you explain more on what's expected in the assignment to get to you guys? Because now it's like a whole different thing.
Yeah. So the flavored passport is what we just went through. I am going to show you the new narrative and the new production sheet in just a second, and that's what's different. And we do it this way because, guys, for you guys to understand the narrative, I don't know if you saw from your first class to your second cooking class and then through your third, that the production sheet that we're asking for gets smaller and smaller and smaller. We don't want steps. We don't want ingredients. We don't want quantities. We just want you to tell me what you did on a step by step by step. Because That is the difference between a home cook and a professional chef. Once I get to my restaurant and I'm the executive chef and I'm going to hire Anthony to be my cook, I know he went to culinary school. I know I don't have to explain to him the steps of saute. If I say, Anthony, saute me a chicken breast, I know that he knows that saute means high heat, low fat, let it brown, hop it around, cook it, plate it, season it, serve it. I am expecting you guys to already know that, so that's why I don't put this step by step in the production sheet that I make for you every day. That's the production sheets that you guys are going to see in the industry. You're going to get there. If you're a line cook, you're going to get there, and your sous chef or your executive chef makes a list of what you need to do, and it's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No steps, definitely no recipes. Just do this, and that's your work. And when you become a manager or an executive chef, a sous chef, or chef owner, you're going to write down production sheets like that. So that's why we kind of change it to prepare you guys better. I am going to talk about just about the narrative and production sheet in just 1 second. Okay, Ruben? So if you still have a question at the end, let me know. And Tanya, go for it.
So my question is, if we do, say, Cuban this week, do we have to do Cuban next week, or can we do something totally different?
Cuban. So for week 1, you're going to do the research on Cuba, and you're going to choose either a breakfast or a street food item from Cuba. And then in week 2, you're going to cook a dinner, a Cuban dinner.
Okay, so it has to be the same thing for both weeks.
Yes. You get to choose a new region in week 3 and 4, and a new region in week 5 and 6.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah, you study 3 regions in total. I wish this class was a whole semester long. The world is huge, but this is what we get, and we make the best out of it. All right, guys, so before it gets too late, here we go. This, Ruben, is what the production sheet is going to look like now. So she made for breakfast, she did a breakfast yogurt cake and coffee. That's what they eat in the Basque Country. Look at her production sheet. Boom, 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 boom. She doesn't tell you the technique of baking the cake. She just tells you, I preheated the oven, I prepare the pan for the cake. I mise en place it, I mix it, I bake it, I cool it, and I unmold. Steps. I don't need to tell you if it's a creaming method or if it's a one-stage method. I don't need to tell you anything. I know that you guys know how to bake a cake. All right? Make coffee, plate, pour, serve. Those are your production sheets. If I am making, let's grab Chef Jamie idea, the fajitas. I'm going to cook the beans first because I know beans take longer than the rice or the fajitas themselves. So I cook my beans, then I start my rice, then I mise en place my fajitas, and I cook the fajitas so everything comes out at the same time, nice and hot. And that's what we're going to be looking for, guys. That the steps that you took are actually the ones that you're going to use cooking. Your production sheet is kind of like writing down what you're going to do in order to come out with everything at the same time and hot. Because if I start with the meat and the peppers and the onions, by the time my beans are done, my fajitas are going to be long gone. That's what we want to teach you in this class too. To think ahead, to make a plan, because that's what working in a restaurant is going to look like. You plan ahead of the day. You go to work and you're doing all your mise en place and you're doing your backup in case you run out of something, and then you have plan B and C in case you get hit with a lot of people. Because in the restaurant business, you'll never know. It could be a Tuesday and all of a sudden a 40 top walks in and sits down. So you have to be prepared for that. Your production sheet is that, planning ahead. Knowing what I'm going to start cooking first in order for everything to come out at the same time. Multitasking, all right? Because in the restaurant business, you're never going to be cooking just one dish. You're going to be cooking many dishes at the same time, and all of them need to look exactly the same. Consistency is key for a successful restaurant. So that's a production sheet. Very general steps that you took to cook your meal. that's the flavor passport, people. That's all you need. 9 slides plus your production sheet. And once you click on the assignment, if you see right there, right here, you have the narrative. When you click on it, it's going to ask you to make a copy. You make a copy and voila. Week 1, you do the top part. The narrative is just for you to answer those questions, period. There's no flavored journal in this class. Just be as honest as possible and thorough as possible from these questions for week 1. For week 2 is these questions. For week 3, the top part, week 4, week 5, week 6. Same questions, just different weeks. Odd weeks and even weeks. But be as thorough in answering them, because that's how Chef Corinne and Chef Jamie are going to know what your challenges were. Maybe getting everything out at the same time was a challenge. And then they can tell you, well, let's work on the production sheet so you can fix that, right? If you're honest and thorough in these questions, they can give you the proper feedback on what went wrong, what went right, so you can learn from each experience. And that's it, besides your drawing, of course. That's it on the research part, on your paperwork.
So I wanted to address the question that you asked, Ruben, about how we're kind of flipping the script on you guys. And we are. We're very close to your externship here, so you're going to notice some subtle changes in your classes now that we're leading a little bit more towards things that you're going to do in the industry, like the drawing that Nadine just brought up. A drawing is a really simple bird's eye view of your plate. Drawings are used in the industry all the time to share ideas. Unfortunately, when you're working on the line, you may have an idea of how you want something plated, but you're not the only person touching that plate. So to be sure every single person down the line knows what to do, you draw out the plate so they can understand what the final vision is. But I wanted to share with you guys an example of a student who just killed it last block. And this is really all that you're going to submit. She gave me her flavor passport on the Philippines, standard self-ID sanitation that you've always done. I need photos of the process along the way. She made a Filipino street food of a fried banana in a wrapper, a turon. So I have all of her photos, her drawing of how she wanted the turon to turn out, plus her production sheet. If you look at the flavor passport, she has her narrative right here, along with all of her research. You can see it looks different than the example because she has her own style and her own flair and matched colors to the state flag or the country flag of the Philippines, and that's awesome. You can do that too. But this is really what we're expecting. This is what your folder is going to look like every odd week, week 1, 3, and 5. You're going to have a flavor passport in there, you're going to have a production sheet, and you're going to have all your pictures. In your flavor passport, you should have a narrative in there as well. So even though it sounds a lot different than what we've done in your previous classes, it's really not. What we're doing is we're adding a research component. And the slideshow is your representation of your research. It's you handing me a book about the Philippines. It's you handing me a book about the South so I can understand what you learned about the South. So that's really the only thing that's different. The production sheet is actually a lot simpler than it's been in the previous one. I don't know about you guys, but that yellow master sheet was not my favorite. I feel like this is a little bit better. It's more direct. It's more reflective. Really looking at the project after it's done and telling me what you loved and what you didn't love. Bill, I know you like the flavor wheel. I like the flavor wheel too. I haven't been to all these places. If you're studying somewhere I haven't been, I want you to tell me what it tastes like. Get as detailed as you want. Get as detailed as you want. Bill is hugging the flavor wheel. I don't know if you guys can all see it. Get as detailed as you want with what your food tastes like. But the production sheet is a lot simpler now, because it's going to reflect what you're doing in the industry. A drawing is included because that's what you're going to be doing in the industry. So we're changing it up a little bit because we're walking you closer to your externship, which is what, 12 weeks away from now? So keep that.
Yep, very close. And guys, so the cool thing is when you click on your assignment and you open it up, it tells you here what we just talked about, what the flavor passport is. Okay, so if you're saying, I'm missing a slide, well, here they are. In summarized version, what you need to do. And then, of course, your production sheet, your narrative, and then your drawing and your production photos, here is the thing. Now we trust you that you know when's a crucial part of your cooking. So you get to decide what 6 to 10 photos you're going to show us, besides your self-ID and sanitation picture. I want to make sure that you guys understood the techniques that you learned in the past classes and that you know the crucial points in each technique. Your mise en place picture, when you're sauteing your onions, when you saute your beef, when you plate it. Just keep in mind, guys, we want at least 2 plates. That doesn't mean that you need 2 portions of each. You can cut 1 portion in 2 and plate it up. We want to see the consistency in plating because like I said, in a restaurant, you get to cook the same dish over and over and over and over and over every night, and you have to plate it exactly the same over and over and over and over every night. So we want to see that you guys can create 2 exact looking dishes. They can be very small size. You can divide your portion that you make into 2. It doesn't have to be 2 big portions, all right? And another thing that you have this week, guys, conversion knowledge check for week 1 and a discussion forum. You have 2 discussion forums. Week 1 is one, week 5 is the other one. This week is all about what you think makes food great. What made it great? Where were you? Who were you with? And how do you know when that food was good? Remember, first post by Saturday, 2 replies by Tuesday. I love this one because this is the one that I get to know a little bit about your background and what you think about food and why you think like that before we go on a journey around the world. And then on week 5, I get to see what regions you chose and how you took it. Sometimes people love seeing that they chose the same region and they did completely 2 different things. So to recap, you have your flavor passport, which is those slideshows. Remember, you go to your Google Drive, you click on New Google Slides, and your slideshow pops up, and then you just have to insert new slide for each and every single slide. You do your flavor passport, your narrative, production sheet, and your drawing. That's the paperwork part. You get to choose either a breakfast or a street food item from your region, and that's your cooking part. Week 1 conversion knowledge check and week 1 discussion forum. It is a very busy first week, but you have a very nice and slow week 2 to recuperate. I know it sounds overwhelming with all the research that you're going to do, but I tell you, since I started teaching this class, by week 2, everybody was like, oh, whew, okay, that wasn't that bad. Especially when they get their grade and they see that they did awesome on the research. Having that said, my recommendation, my advice is start early. If you wait to do all of this until Tuesday, you're definitely gonna be very overwhelmed. You no longer have a core class paired with this class for a reason. For you guys to focus all that time that you spend on the core class in this class too. So spread your work around. Do the knowledge check, the conversion knowledge check today. Start your discussion forum on Saturday. Start your flavor passport Friday or Sunday at the latest. That way you do a couple of slides a day, you leave the cooking for Monday, and you relax on Tuesday. You just submit that. It is very important that you spread your work around so you don't feel overwhelmed. Linda, you have a question?
Yes, on the plating. Can you explain that again? Say I make a breakfast. Do I put it on 2 plates? Do I divide it and put it on 2 plates?
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
And the breakfast?
There's a couple of ways you can do it. We want to see 2 identical plates.
Okay.
If you're cooking for people in your house and you're going to make 2 portions anyway, then you just cook 2 portions and put it on 2 plates. If you're only cooking for you and you're on a budget and you don't want to make 2 portions for no reason, you can split what 1 typical portion would be onto 2 plates, but you got to plate them identically. We want to see them.
Okay, that was my question. Okay, thank you.
And Chef, I actually wanted to answer a couple of questions that were in the chat rapid fire, just so you guys can have the answers to them. One, prepared foods. Prepared foods within reason are okay with me. Something like phyllo dough, I don't expect you to make and pull phyllo dough with like 4 of your friends and a tablecloth. Okay, I don't expect you to do that. You can get really good quality phyllo dough at the store. Something like tomato sauce, you know how to do that. I don't want to see any jars of tomato sauce. You know what I mean? If you want French bread as part of your recipe, I know you just came from 141, and I know you can make French bread. But if something is a little bit too time consuming, then there is space within reason there to do some prepared foods. If you know how to make it, make it. One thing. Second thing, when it comes to all white plates, in this class, we're bucking the all white plate thing. If you want to use an all white plates for your dish, please do. But remember that we're studying cultural foods. If you're making fish and chips, culturally, that's served in a newspaper, wrapped up, ready to go. And you can plate it that way if you want. If you want to plate tacos in a little basket and do it that way. If you want to wrap a hero in foil and plate it that way, you can do that. We're studying specific cultures, and there's a little bit more freedom in this class than you've ever had before. That freedom can be scary. I get that. It's overwhelming. But there's very few things that we're going to say, no, can't do that. Because we're studying different cultures, and if it's acceptable in the culture, it's acceptable for me. That also goes with messing up. There was a bunch of questions in the chat about what if I make a mistake? What if it doesn't turn out right? As with every single class, submit your mistakes. We want to see what went wrong. We will guide you towards how to do it right. I'm not expecting to see perfect plates of dishes that you've never made before and never heard before. I just want to see your attempts at them. I want to know what the experience was like for you, and that's how you'll pass the class, is by giving us that information. So don't worry too much about that. So yeah, things like tortillas, store-bought tortillas, fine. If you don't have a tortilla press and a mill to mill your own corn, that's reasonable. So think about that within reason. That's what I had, Chef.
Awesome. Definitely. So go over the flavor passport example. Go over the assignment. Think about it. Get your easy points out of the way. Your conversion knowledge check and your discussion form. Boom, boom. That way you concentrate in the new thing, which is your research and your cooking. If you have any questions, guys, the awesome thing about this class this time around is you get 3 of us. You get 3 of us that you can ask questions. You can ask us anything. We will get back to you. Me, you can text me, call me, or email me. I normally answer them very fast, as fast as I can. Chef Jamie, Chef Corinne, you want to tell them the best way? Because they're evaluating, so they always have to, in silence. So maybe text and email them is better. Chef Jamie, Chef Corinne?
Yeah, typically I don't have my phone on me, so if you guys call me, I won't be able to call you back until later. But if you text me or email me, I have that up on my screen as I'm grading, and I can get you back right away. So that's the quickest way to get a hold of me. Chef Corinne, I assume it's going to be the same for you?
Same for me.
Yeah.
All right. So you get 3 of us that you can ask us anything. The good thing is between the 3 brains of ours, we have a vast understanding of different cultures around the world. And if we don't know the answer, I will make sure I research it with you. Okay, guys? Welcome to Cuisines of the World. I'm excited to read it in the chat that a lot of you are excited for the freedom. And that's what I want you guys to be. Excited because you're about to embark in a whole lot of knowledge. Absorb it. The only 2 things that I have to tell you to be is respectful of other cultures, even if you don't understand them, and that we are going to have to acknowledge where they came from. Sometimes a lot of cultures have a very sad and problematic past, but it is part of who they are and how they became to be that we need to acknowledge where they came from and respect the different cultures, okay? Those 2 things I want us to do throughout the class. If you have any questions, let us know. And don't forget, conversion knowledge check discussion form and your assignment.
Guys, I did want to say that I know that this class can be a little bit intimidating. You're expressing it in the chat that you're nervous. In addition to the websites that I'm going to be sending out to you after this class, I'm going to be sending you a list of resources that we all trust. I'm also going to send you a week 1 calendar to be successful. It has every single thing that you need to do in week 1 listed out over several days. Built in is some time to relax. So I'm going to send you that calendar in addition to the resources, and I promise you will be fine.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming tonight, guys. Again, if you have any questions, let us know. Text us, email, call us. Chef Kareem, Chef David,
all right, guys, I hope you're super excited about Cuisines of the World. It is absolutely one of my favorite topics, and I have a feeling in about 6 weeks it's going to be your favorite topic as well. And I'm looking forward to traveling around the world with you. Chef Kareem?
Yes. Lift those wings and soar. Enjoy every bit of every country and region you go to, even though you're still at home. That's the beauty of food. Let food be your vehicle, and we're along for the ride.
absolutely. Have a great night, everyone. Thank you.